What's up, y'all? Back with another episode of the Rapper Cap Podcast. I'm your host, Mike the Young OG. Got part 2, episode 11 of mental health problems running our bloodline. So definitely want to get that popping. Appreciate everybody who watched and supported episode 11, the first part. If you haven't seen it and you're watching this, you might want to go back and see kind of like what the content was of what we were talking about. This week, transition into the present. And yeah, I'm gonna basically jump right in this, but definitely before we get started, gotta shout out God is Dope for the long sleeves. Gotta have them. Y'all should really hook me up with a sponsorship, because for sure be spending my money on y'all. So shout out to them, minus all the other stuff that I'm playing, but I'm real serious about. I said it wasn't gonna be no interviews this week. Shout out to y'all, because y'all reached out, y'all really pulled through and was like, nah, we got to talk about this. Like, I want to talk about this, like this, and this. So I had a lot of people reach out and talk about it. Unfortunately, I'm not able to get everybody this month, but definitely got a interview, maybe two. We'll see how it goes, about mental health. And then end of the month, we got free game coming, and definitely got a guest for that. So with that being said, just a recap of last week of how I left y'all off. Kind of meant to leave it off on a cliffhanger, but I probably should have went in more detail with it in regards to my mother. When it comes down to the anxiety piece, we've traced in our family, and I didn't even think about it at the time, because y'all know I just be talking, you know what I'm saying? So I traced it all the way back. We did, and we have been tracing it back to at least my great-grandmother. She passed away a decade and some change ago, but she passed from dementia. And she struggled with like dementia and anxiety her whole life almost, and even through childbearing, even through all of that, like that was a big struggle during her life, and I believe her husband did as well. Like, so that runs deep on that side of the family. And my grandma that passed recently, she suffered from a lot of anxiety as well. So, my mom she doesn't have dementia. She's perfectly fine, But, that's what I meant to encompass in saying the anxiety piece, and where I get like anxiety from sometimes. So just wanted to clear that up for you guys, and clear that up for my mother, because I didn't want her painted in a different light. And it goes beyond my family. It's not just in my mom, it hasn't just affected my mom. The anxiety piece has affected other family members, but I won't get into that. So we kind of left off last time just doing basically a history background, just going over some things that you didn't know. I found out something I didn't know by doing more research this time, and actually by talking to friends just off of feedback from the last episode. And shout out to my girl Wintress. She actually told me, she was like, black families, black men were forced to rape their families sometimes, to basically emasculate the man, and as well as to send a message to the whole plantation as he's not the head. He's not even the head of your family. I'm the head. I can make him do things that you can't. He does whatever I say, and I'm in control. I own you. And it's a mind screw, because it's like, why in the world would you even want to send that message? Why would you want another man to rape his daughter, or rape his wife, or to rape his son? It's sick. And honestly, those are the things implanted in black history that we don't talk about, that's uncomfortable, and that white people don't want to talk about because it's uncomfortable, and because it's a part of their history. And we have to talk about it and eventually get healing from it, because it did happen, and it's transcended through bloodlines, through time, through history. And I really honestly believe we can trace a lot of things going on today, and certain stigmas, and certain patterns, and certain epidemics to that. And just to kind of keep going on that, what should I say, kind of tone, or that pathway. Black families were, like I said before, when they were ripped from their homelands, it's not like they're like, all right, where's the rest of your family? Or where's your son? You're missing your son? All right, let's go get him so we can sell y'all all together. No, 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 no. Like, when black people, I'm going to say this again because this is important. When black people were selling out black people, and you could say, oh, that's African. Like, we all have African descent. Everybody in the world has African descent. So let's just leave that black and African thing alone. Like, we are African. So therefore, when black people were taking black people or selling out black people in Africa, it's not like when white people could get their hands on people, they were looking for a complete set. If they got a son and a daughter before they could get a mom and a dad, or vice versa, that's what they did. And oftentimes, putting everybody on that boat or that ship, you get lost on the ship. Like, and what I mean by that is, you might not even be next to your family chained up. You might not even be on the same ship chained up. You could be on one ship and the other one could be on another. You could be going to England. Somebody else could be going to the Americas. Somebody else could be going to France. Somebody else, like, you just don't know. And they didn't care. Of course, you know what I'm saying? They try to keep the mothers and the babies together sometimes just because of breastfeeding and all that. But they didn't really care. They didn't have a preference. It was their prerogative to get as much money as they could for black people as they could, or to use them for whatever they were good for. If they needed a maid and they only needed one and that's all they had to pay for, okay, cool. I just need the daughter. She has a longer lifespan than the mother has, and she's never worked a day in her life up to this point. Need that. Come over here. So families were often sold separately during slavery, and the fact that the families were ripped apart, that echoes in today's society, because we as black people don't have the greatest history in terms of men being a part and being the head of households. And I'm not proud to say that. And I actually had found some stats on that. And the discrepancies are crazy. So 75% of black families are headed by single mothers. 75%. That's average. That's an average household are headed by black mothers. Single black mothers. 36% of black families have married, and that doesn't even include whether or not that's their real dad. So what that stat is that means 36% of black families have a married couple in them. Meaning that the mom and dad might be married, but that's not necessarily saying that, you know what I'm saying, for one, that that's their kids they might have adopted. And then for two, that this daughter is both of theirs or the son is both of theirs. That's what that stat means. So just researching and looking at things like that, it made me wonder, like, what's the average for white people? And the average for white people is 64%. Both parents in the household, 64%. And for single mothers, for white people, it was about 36%. The discrepancies are crazy. White people are used to having a family. White people are used to being able to grow up in a stable environment per se, as far as fundamentally. Black people are not. And it goes back to black men being emasculated by their slave owners. How is there racism? How is there any mental health problems in that? For one, you as a slave owner are causing men to rape their families. Therefore, you are sowing incest into the bloodline. Now, you're getting in a whole new charted territory, because That man is going back to his family. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. But we never know how trauma will play out in someone's life. We never know. And that's exactly why we hear women all the time come out, talk about, oh, I was raped, or men, I was molested or whatever. And we look at the decisions they make and not the trauma that happened to them or why they are the way that they are. And it's because trauma hits you in a totally different way. Like, everyone doesn't handle trauma. Everyone doesn't handle grief the same way. But in the man, he knew in the man is where the seed is. So whatever I can do to the man, I can do to anybody else on the plantation. And that is the message that he wanted to echo throughout his plantation to assert his dominance. It's the same thing. I mean, gorillas don't do this. They don't rape their own. But they assert their dominance early. So if they have to beat you to the brink of your life for you to realize, oh, no. Yeah, this is how it's going to go. You're in charge. And whenever I feel like you can be uprooted or whatever, I'll try you. It probably won't work, but I'll try you. I have to. Because it's in my nature to push back as an animal. That's the same mind frame, the same mindset that white people have, or white people did have. And that in itself is a mental health problem. Because why do you feel like you need to emasculate someone to assert your dominance? You have to have something wrong with you. And it's not a generational thing. It's not a method that was used only for generational purposes. It is strictly in the white community of that time, and it has been passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation. And it was taught to them at an early age so they would get comfortable doing it and asserting their dominance in certain ways. It wasn't uncommon. It was actually the common thing to do. If you weren't doing that, if you weren't pushing that on your descendants, then it was like, oh, this bloodline is going to be weak, or my land won't last through the ages, or whatever. My legacy is tarnished. That's exactly what their mind frame was, what their mindset was. Like, yeah, this is a part of having slaves. This is a part of life. This is the luxury. This is the method that you need to use to get where you need to go. And that just speaks on how important the male figure is in society and in Black communities. And before I get this independent woman movement pushed on me, just listen. Just please listen. Because I'm not knocking any woman. Men offer in their job description is not greater than women, but he's called to do more. What he has for his kids and his family, the woman cannot give. And what the woman has that she's supposed to give and that she does for her kids and for her husband, the man cannot give. Two separate lanes, but they need each other to fulfill the ultimate goal of stability. And we often wonder, oh, wow, like all these prisons are filled up. That's because 75% of the people in prison didn't have a father. That is an actual stat. Look it up. 75% of men in jail right now did not have a father figure or father. And you can't make that up. The father is there for guidance. And even for people who have their fathers and their fathers necessarily, oh, they didn't raise them well. They gave you their best and they were there. Sometimes that's not really enough. But compared to people who have no idea what a father feels like or looks like, it's still a complete 180. And this just reinforces to me, and we're going to dive deep into this. I'm telling you, like this, just because it's just this month, it doesn't mean, oh, we're going to stop here. No. we're going to go all the way with this, because what we have to realize is that by doing this, by the methods used back in the day, the things that have been sowed into our bloodline as black people, and I cannot speak for any other races because I'm only black, but as black people, we have to really look at. And we are not, and I'm not saying you go to work or you go and have relationships and say, I got anger issues because my ancestors were enslaved. No, stop it. Stop it. You got anger issues because you haven't dealt with your anger. That's why. What I'm saying is the things that you see now, the ghettos, that we as black people are so proud to say, oh, I come from the hood. And if you come from the hood, cool. I ain't knocking you. Everybody comes from somewhere, and it is a testament in itself that you made it out and didn't fall and become a statistic. But we got rappers that glorify the hood like it's this honorable thing to come from there. No, what if we didn't? What if we could all start off in the suburbs, or we could at least all start off like most white people in America? We could start off on the same footing, have the same opportunities. Wouldn't that be the thing to glorify? Wouldn't that be the thing to really push to other people? And I'm not knocking anybody, and I'm not here to attack anybody, but for an example, Plies, he's a valedictorian. He doesn't even speak the way he does. But yet, that image is how he became a millionaire. Rapping and pushing the hood life. He's not all about that. You can listen to the way Plies talks on Instagram and tell he's intelligent. And tell he's not like everyone else. But that image is what keeps him circulating. What keeps the money coming in. So that's what they sell. And we as black people have been put in the ghettos since Egyptian times. When Egypt was at its peak, they had a city miles away. I think it was about 4 miles away outside of the city that was ghetto. It was, you got what you got. You got fed consistently, but where you lived, it was whatever. Like, oh yeah, whatever. You can live over there, build your own stuff. That's the thing that we have to address. We cannot continue as black people to glorify these situations that we're in. We cannot continue to glorify being raised by a single mother and think that is a badge of honor. It is a tragedy. We as black men have to step up. We as black men have to acknowledge where we come from and how we can stop ourselves from falling into the same statistical stigmas that plague our society. Yes, white people have done a lot to black history and black people, but we eventually as black men and as black people have to say, yeah, we're continuing it. We have to stop victimizing ourselves and really understand where we come from and be able to maneuver and operate better in life instead of just being stuck in the same old. That's the problem. And it starts with black men taking the initiative. If you're out here having sex unprotected, and you don't plan on making this woman a wife, being with this woman for the rest of your life, wrap it up or don't unwrap it at all. Because this whole broken family, I'm gonna be with this woman, and then when she gets pregnant, I don't want to be with you long term, or I don't know if I want to be with you long term. We're gonna co-parent, and that works if both parties are willing, but statistics say it's not. Children, black children, every child, especially black kids, because I'm black, they deserve both of their parents in the household. They deserve to see some sort of functionality or feel functional. And they grow up and they become these Instagram people who are screaming at men, or who are demeaning women, and people are screaming that you have daddy or you have mommy issues, and they can't see it because their chaos, their dysfunction is their norm. So therefore they're like, you're bugging. This is what I've seen my whole life, which is sad. We need, as a people, to stand up and trace our bloodline back. Yeah, why is Uncle such and such always looking or being friendly with the women or with the little girls on this side of the family? Why is he always smiling? Why does he always want to hug? Genuinely, it might be love. Genuinely, sometimes it's other things. And we have to address that. Where does that stem from? And we have to stop being so uncomfortable and so hush-hush about everything. No. Confront that. Bring that out. That is some of the same things that have been poured into our bloodline. Perversion is a outbreak. It is a consequence. It is a product of incest and mental health issues from white people from slavery times. Everything you see today, you can trace back to back then. It's just a matter of if you want to or not. And we have to understand as black people that no more excuses. It's time for us to stand up. And it's time for us to come together. Nobody wants to see any more broken families. Nobody wants to see any more single mothers be Superman their whole life. And shout out to the mothers who are single mothers and that who have to do this because their man or their baby father did not step up or won't step up. That's a shame. And it's all traced back to when we were sold separately, like merchandise, to other slave owners. They break up the black family because they know a family united cannot be broken in spirit and cannot be broken at all. Because what are you gonna do as a slave owner? And at the end of the day, you can beat them, you can name call, you can defame them, you can demean them, but you will never separate them. You will never break the unity that they share. And that in itself scared them and was like, oh, that's cause for an uprising. We got to break it up. It says in the history books, actually, that we are taught in school, white people were terrified of an uprising, which is why they were so militant and why they were so cruel to black people, because of that hate, for one, and two, because they knew if we ever decide as a people to stand as one, to support each other, to be there for each other, to promote each other, unstoppable. We might be outnumbered in America, but we're unstoppable. And you start to see things like black people make up 40% of the population in the US, but they make up 80% of the wealth in America. Yeah, that's right. That's what we would see. Just like the Jews, they make up about 11% of the population in America, but they're worth 30% of the wealth in America. Their average, this is a stat from 2018, their average for an average household was $100,000. Some people have both parents and their average isn't $100,000. And that's not a knock on them, but just to think about that. Why? Because they support each other. They go within their own community. And when they leave, they still get supported by their community. We don't have that. We leave, and either we like, man, he left, he don't care about us, or we stay and we become a statistic because that's what we see and that's the norm. And the norm isn't, no, go get yours, bring it back, show us how to get ours. Or no, let's support while we're there and I'll bring y'all with me. That's not the mindset. The mindset is to pin each other against each other and watch a scrap to the death, and see whoever wins, wins. It's the same thing they used to do with Mandingo fighters. And once you won a certain amount of fights, okay, cool. You don't have to fight no more. I'll let you go. If you die, you die. I'll get another one. You've made me enough money. We have to just be mindful of all the things that were going on. Another mental health problem. Think about the kids who were separated from their parents. Think about the kids during this time frame when they were sold without their parents, or sold from their parents, or ripped from their families after the plantation after they get older. You grow up sometimes from birth not knowing your dad, not knowing your mom, not knowing who your brothers and sisters are, not even being able to recognize them in a crowd full of people. And then you're raised in a dictatorship where all you know is hard labor. Then the plot thickens. That's just one way mental health problems stem, because you get a feeling of loneliness, you get a feeling of depression. I never knew who they were. The slave owners might joke to you or be like, oh yeah, this is your mom right here. Whenever they go to a different plantation, or whenever he's in the house, they're like, this is your mom right here. I sent you off to such and such to work for a couple years to lower my debt, or to get rid of my debt. Now that you're back, by the way, this is your mom. By the way, this is your sister. Yeah. Fast forward that. Oh, let's say they grow up together. At least they have, their brother and their sister and their mom, or their brother and their sister and their dad. You grew up without a mom. You grew up without a dad. What issues do you think stem now? Think about what issues we have as individuals now growing up without one of our parents. What issues do you think they were going through, along with getting beat, along with getting worked day in through day out, along with eating leftovers of parts of animals that aren't healthy for you, that they're not even eating? Mentally, it's like, it doesn't get any better than this, and it becomes your norm. And you become accustomed to abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse. It becomes your norm. That is this is how some people were convinced what love felt like, or what life was supposed to feel like. It was supposed to be hard. It's supposed to feel like this. And that's where we are right now. It's like, oh no, I gotta work. I gotta just put my work in. No, you don't. People work themselves into a grave and never see or accomplish anything that they set out to or dream to do. The goal is just to feel comfortable and to feel stable. And we as a community chase stability so hard because we never had it. And when we did have it, we can't remember it. We can't trace it back to an ancestor, to a bloodline. We don't know that. What we chase after is fleeting. And what we need to really do is really sit down and cut the statistics in half, cut the stigmas. Fathers, be there. Men, be there. Women, be there, because it is some deadbeat mamas out there too. Be there. If you're going to have a family, commit to the family. If you're not going to commit towards each other, commit to that family, and let's stop these statistics and stop raising kids who have issues. And we all have issues. But these particular issues, and then not being able to talk about your trauma, and then operating in dysfunction and chaos, gets you used to being dysfunctional, and it prevents you from having healthy relationships with yourself and with people. Because now you have all this inside of you, all this emotion, all these problems that you will not talk about or that you can't talk about because you don't have a platform. That's the issue. And we as Black people have to address that. So, ending part 2, let's stand up as Black people and have something to really be proud of that goes beyond shiny cars, big houses, jewelry, women, whatever it is. Let's strive to be entrepreneurs. Let's strive to be complete families. Let's strive to be functional human beings. Let's strive to go talk to people about our issues. Therapists, pastors. We need that in our community. We need to make that the norm and to stop making it seem like, oh, you're crazy if you go talk to them. No, that person just needs help, and we all do. And it's important that we help each other during these times and help each other through our trauma and not laugh or not pick at it or not glorify it. Toxicity and dysfunction is not attractive. So, episode 11, part 2. I'm Mike, the Young OG, on Instagram. You can follow the page, Rap or Cap Podcast, RAPORCAP Podcast on Instagram. If you're following on Twitter, remove the T, add a 1. Y'all tell me if I'm rapping or capping. Peace out.